excited to have you. You are an OG on social
I
media
don't.
talking about all of the real shit going on in motherhood, parenthood. You do not hold anything back. And I admire you so much. I feel like you were an inspiration to me and like to put myself out there in that way because it can be a hard thing to do, right? To be vulnerable in
Yeah,
that way and put yourself out there to all these strangers online. So,
I
I'm just
appreciate
really
that a
excited to
lot,
have
like a
you.
lot. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Yeah. So how long have you been posting on social media?
So I think I started right around my oldest's first birthday. So it's been like 4 years since he just turned 5. So I think October was a 4 years is when I
Wow.
started. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like
And
I
was
started
you
like
started
balls to the wall. Like I was just like, I'm showing it all. I don't care.
yeah. What made you want to start posting?
Honestly, like I was like in the depth of postpartum and I was home all the time. I wasn't working. I was strictly a stay-at-home mom and it was 24/7 with my child and I had a really hard time breastfeeding and once he did latch, he would be latched forever. So I spent a lot of time on Instagram and I was just like looking through all these accounts and I was like, this is not at all what my postpartum journey looks like. And it was almost like beating me down when I was already down to see so many perfect accounts out there with their aesthetic feeds, their beautifully clean homes, and like their kids in adorable outfits, like their little infants in adorable outfits, and them in outfits in full makeup. And I'm sitting there with milk everywhere, literally throw up on me. Like I was wearing my husband's boxers for 99.9% of the time with a nursing bra. Like I literally opened up the door. I'll never forget this. I opened up the door to the mailman and I was literally in my nursing bra and my husband's boxers and didn't even realize that it was unlatched and like full blown nipple out. And I was just like, oh my God, like this is my life. And I happen to have I have a photo of it still because like I looked over and I was like, why was he so weird? And then I like turned this way and I have a mirror and I'm like, oh my God, like this guy just got my full. We became really good friends after that. I like his name was Gerard. Like we like were friends after that. But I had two friends that had babies at the same exact time as me. And they were feeling how I was feeling. And I was like, you know what? Let me just start posting about this. And it got a really big response because at that time, there really weren't many accounts that were brutally honest, you know? So that's how it started.
No.
It was
Yeah.
just like,
Oh
I
my
feel like
gosh.
this needs to be normalized.
Yeah, okay, I relate to so many things that you just said, but also like I love that story about the nursing bra and just like your tit out and like did he say
Full
anything or
on.
you didn't realize how you
No.
went back inside and you were like so embarrassed?
I was like, why was that such an awkward encounter? And like, I'm holding the baby here, and like my
Yeah.
boob is just here, and like, I'm like, that was weird. Like, I kept like, he was trying so hard to keep looking at my face, and I was like, that's so weird. Like, what happened? And then I like turn, and my mirror is right there. I like shut the door and I turn, and I'm like, oh. And I'm like, oh my
Oh
God.
my
I was
God.
wondering why it was so breezy. I was like mortified. I literally have the
So
picture.
breezy.
It's like, God, that was
That
really
is
weird.
hilarious.
I was like
That's
shocked.
hilarious.
I immediately called my husband and I was like, we might have to move. Like, we might have to move. Like, this was just, and yeah, it was awful, but
Hopefully
also
he
hilarious.
has like
Like,
a wife at home.
yeah, he
Yeah,
does.
hopefully he
So,
has like
like,
a wife at home so he like gets it.
he, yeah, he does. And he checks, he retired now, but like, for a while, like he would like bring the packages like even closer to the house and he would like put them in like things and
Like
wrap them so they
don't
wouldn't
leave
get
it, don't come
wet.
out here.
He was like, do not come out here. Like he tried to protect me from that kind of embarrassment. But no, he was really nice. He would always ask about the kids and like he watched them like my oldest is 5 now and I think he retired like almost a year and a half ago and he was like super nice. But that was probably the most like what the heck just happened moment after that. So I
Yeah.
think that baby was like 4 months
Yeah.
old at that time. Anthony. Yeah.
Oh wow.
It
So
was
tiny,
brutal.
tiny. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I can relate to so much. I mean, I feel like our postpartum experiences were probably pretty similar because I struggled with breastfeeding so much. So my oldest is 6, so I had mine before yours, but I did the same thing. my daughter had colic for the first 3 months.
Yep.
Breastfeeding was a nightmare. So we ended up just doing bottles. And for a while there, I was pumping because I had so much guilt about
Mhm.
formula because it was my
Yep.
first and I just didn't know. So like
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I can't breastfeed. It's too painful. So I'm gonna have to pump and then bottle feed her. And I was so engorged. I had so much milk, which is
Yeah.
like a good thing, right? But so then I was spending all this time. It's like, what do you do in the middle of the night when you're pumping? So I was like scrolling Instagram and
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
this does not look anything like my experience. And it made me feel like something was wrong with me, that
Right.
I was a bad mom. I wasn't meant to be a mom. And it really like affected my mental health. And so I can relate to you 100% on that.
I think that a majority of people actually like women feel that way. And it's not, and I feel over the past 2 or 3 years, it's really grown on. I don't know if it's just because my algorithm now is like very much that kind of feed versus the aesthetic feed that I was being fed at that point, which was
Right.
like the worst time to feed me that kind of a feed, you know? So I don't
Right.
know if it was out there and I just didn't really know, but like I followed Scary Mommy and Tara from Modern Mom Problems, and they're very much open about all
Yeah.
those things. And but those were the only two that I was really like in it to like. I kept like liking all their things, you know. So that was just my
Yeah.
goal, was to be like honest about it. And same with like marriage and stuff after you have kids. Like I was seeing all these like happy families with their infant, and I'm like, I have so much resentment for my husband right now
Yes.
because he gets to leave and I'm just here, child, like,
How
like I'm just like,
convenient.
how did that happen, you know? So like, and that was one of my first posts that I ever did, like on my blog, was like the resentment that came with my marriage, like came with having a baby towards my husband. Like the first 2 weeks were beautiful, like, oh, I love you so much, you're such a great dad. And then like reality sets in because those like that high comes down and he goes back to work, you know, and it's just like, wait a second, I don't know if I like you anymore, you know? And it's just like nobody
Right.
talked about that either. And that was really, really hard. That was probably one of the hardest parts too, because I felt so alone in that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I can relate so much. I'm sure a lot of women can as well. What were some of the things that you did in order to overcome that?
So my best friend, actually, we had the same exact due date, and she her my
Oh,
Anthony was a preemie, so he was 4 weeks early. But when she finally had her daughter, what like that was what I did. Like we would every other day, I would just go be with her, sit with her, be together. Like that was the only thing that like kept me sane. And I have a very good support system. My sister still lived here at the time. My dad lived right down the street. My mom lives right down the street. My husband's mom lives right down the, like, not too far. But like it was just really like it took me a long time to ask for help, but once I finally did, that was such a relief too, because I felt like I had to do all the things. Like I felt like it was only my responsibility to do it all. And it wasn't
yeah,
until my second that I actually was like, okay, somebody needs to come here and grab my kid because I need to leave, like right now for five
yeah,
minutes, you know? So
yeah,
I did that. And then I just tried really hard to leave the house often with him, to go for walks. I did a lot of walking and really
yeah.
just motivated myself to do that. With my second one, my oldest was in school already. So with my second, that's when I actually started my small business, because I could feel myself kind of like going back into that, like, okay, I feel like I have no purpose, you know, like I need to like
Yeah.
get this, I need creative energy to go somewhere, because Instagram only did so much. Like I can only post so many times a day before it's like, wait, you need to shut up. That's way too many posts, you know? So I
Right.
started the t-shirt company, and that's where I would like literally strap him on and just make shirts and just like do that. So that took a lot off
Oh,
of my chest, with like feeling those postpartum blues, like just to feel like I'm doing something or contributing somehow to the household, even with like income.
yeah.
That's a big thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that so much. And I know a lot of stay-at-home moms feel that way where
Hmm.
they don't feel like they have a purpose anymore. Every day is the same. It's like Groundhog's Day. They want to be able
Yeah.
to have a purpose, but then also like contribute financially. So I was going to ask you about
Right.
that. So your teacher company. So you started that after your second was born. Your oldest was in school,
Yeah.
and then I know that you did go back to work, right?
So I
I
was
can't remember
home.
exact. Yeah.
Yeah, I was home for a year with each of them. A little bit less with my second because I went back per diem, like just part time. But for with my first one, I was home an entire year, and then COVID hit. And
Oh,
so then I
okay.
was working from home doing telemed and going in every once in a while, but I
Mm,
was then pregnant. So I didn't want to like immerse myself into that again. Like I had just
right.
gotten a taste of going back into the workforce right when COVID hit and everything shut down. So I was just like, okay, well, this kind of sucks. Like now I had just felt like myself again. And then I got pregnant. And
Yeah.
then so it's just like, you know,
COVID. Yeah.
yeah, COVID was brutal,
Yeah.
but
I know.
it
Yeah.
is.
So that was always the plan, like take a year off and then go back to
Mhm.
work and start back
Yeah.
up your career. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know I've seen some posts of yours over the years about going back to work and not really feeling like totally fulfilled as a stay-at-home mom. And I feel like it's like a conversation that comes up a lot on my page, and I'm supportive of whatever women want to do that's
Right.
best for them. But sometimes people like in the comments will like get into like these little pissing match kind of. And
Oh
it's
my
like
gosh.
some people
It's
feel like
unavoidable.
I know, and it's like, guys, that's not like. I think you've
Yeah.
even like chimed in on on like
Yes.
my post before and been like, you must not be following her for like a long period of time or something because this is
Yeah.
not what her page is about. But
Yeah.
like, it's funny because a lot of times people think being a stay-at-home mom is a privilege, and for many it is, but for others it doesn't fulfill them. And
Right.
so that's just kind of what it's all about is like finding what works for you. And
Mhm.
so I'm curious kind of what your thoughts are on like when you were a stay-at-home mom, like trying to find that purpose again, going back to work, what struggles that you had being a stay-at-home mom and then also a working mom.
So, and I think that like a lot of the time women are just expected to give up everything that they worked for because now their sole purpose is just to be a mom, right? But men a lot of the time don't go through that. Like my husband wasn't expected to stop his career for a second and be home so that I could leave and and that to me didn't seem very fair because I worked really hard to become a PA, and part of being in medicine is staying on top of that and being competitive because it becomes very competitive, right? So like if I'm going to go apply and I have to now kind of explain this block of time that I wasn't in the workforce. And then I don't look as worthy to them as somebody who is fresh out of school, has no kids, doesn't need to worry about being called to come pick up their children. And then also like, well, what have you been doing all this time? Like, have you been staying on top of your CMEs? Have you been like in the medicine? Like, do you know what changes have been made and all that? So like, I tried really hard to do that while I was a stay at home mom, but you can only do so much when you're home with kids, right? Like I
Right.
was one of those people before I had children, and I was like, wow, what are you, a stay-at-home mom? Like that must be so easy. Like I was the idiot that said that. And you don't
Yeah.
know until you know, right? You just don't know. So a lot of
Yeah.
people that say that it's a privilege because you get to not miss a moment. You get to be there for it all, and then you don't have to worry about going home and I mean going away and then coming back home and then also have to being put on like all this energy that you may not have after having a work day depending on what you do, right? But the privilege is also being able to leave also and be yourself again because
Yeah.
I felt like I was not a very good version of myself come 4 o'clock in the afternoon when I haven't had a chance to even pee by myself. And now I'm being mean to this little person who doesn't deserve that. It's not their fault. They
Yeah.
rely on me solely, you know? And when I saw that pattern happening more often than not, where I was like standing by the door ready to hands off my child by 5, like I was like, okay, I need to step away from this. And even if I'm away for 4 hours a day to go back part time, just so that I'm a better version of myself for my son, because he deserves that, then that's what I need to do. And once I saw that that was what I needed, that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to go try to get a job 3 times a week. And that's what I did. I went back to work at urgent care. And I was able to do
Yeah.
that until I wasn't because it shut down because of COVID. So that's
Oh,
what, yeah. So I did it for like
yeah.
4
Hail
or
Mary.
5 months. Yeah. But I
Yeah.
think that that's such a like misconception where women have so much pressure after babies, whereas I think that men truly don't. And my husband did not know what that was like until he became the stay at home parent not too long ago. back in, I think it started in August of this year. He stayed home for a few months, but they're older now. So it's not even the same. Like
Yeah.
he would get them ready
Yeah.
in the morning, he drops them off, and then he would pick them back up and have a few hours until I was home. And it's a way different experience than those first 2 years where they're like
Right.
dependent on you to hold them up,
Yeah.
to feed them. Like they can't even hold their own heads up. Like your sole responsibility is that, So he got the
Yeah.
easier version, but he still was like, because it's just so happened when he made that switch, we got hit with the flu, we got hit with COVID, so the kids were
Mm.
home with him, and he was like,
Yeah.
oh my God. He was like, I don't know. He was like,
This is
and like,
harder.
remember, yeah. And he's back at work now because we financially need that. So, because I feel like we're solely working to keep our kids and have an education, unfortunately, or like
I
it's so
know.
hard
That's
in
like a
this
whole
economy
other
right
thing.
now. That's a whole
Yeah.
conversation for another day. But
Oh,
even in those moments, like he was working like 40 to 50 hours a week. And he was like, that is so much easier than being home for 1 or 2 full days with somebody who's like, daddy, daddy. I'm like, yeah. Imagine when they're non-vocal and you have absolutely no idea why they're crying and your boobs are freaking leaking and squirting milk everywhere. I was like, now you kind of get a little glimpse of that, And he was like, yeah, like
yeah.
our dynamic and our relationship very much so changed once that happened because he had a lot more
Yeah.
respect for the stay-at-home parents. So it was
Yeah.
nice.
I feel that too. Yeah, I feel that too. So I've always worked outside the home. So I had a very
Okay.
generous maternity leave with the company I work for. So it was about like 5 months that I was able to stay home and was fully paid. So I didn't have to worry, or be stressed out financially like a lot of
Right.
women are. But then when I went back to work, I worked part-time, which was great. My husband, like sometime later, well, at this time he was in school, he graduated, worked somewhere. Then he got laid off. This was in 2021. So then I went back to work full time while he found a new job, and he was a stay-at-home dad. And, and my kids were like 1 and 3 or 1 and 4. Yeah, 1 and 4
Yeah.
they would have been. And it was also good for me too to see what it was like actually working like 5 days a week, Monday through
Right.
Friday. Because before I was
Yeah,
just working
absolutely.
part-time. So I had the best of both worlds at that time. So it was also good for me to see what it was like in his
Exactly.
shoes. And then so like reversing the roles. And I think that was really good for us.
I think if families can do that and actually reverse the roles just for like a second, I think that it helps
Yeah.
everybody because you just don't know the other person's side of it until you do it. Because coming
Yeah.
home after like a 12-hour shift and then having to be on is also hard. So it's both
Yes.
hard, and that's the point to your comments in your comment section, and I get it too every time I post about
Yeah.
it. It is a battle. And it's like, I just don't like, we shouldn't be comparing our hards, right? Everybody's hard is their hard. And what might be hard
Right.
for you might not be hard for me, vice versa. But there is such a competition in motherhood that if it was just like eliminated, we would all be
I
like,
know.
it would be so much more pleasant and it would be easier
Yeah.
to talk about our own experiences if we didn't feel so judged about them all the time, because there's going to
Yeah.
be somebody that's creeping in that has to say something so mean that, and I don't know how you are with your comments, but if I see one and that it can get to me, and it'll get to me for days, especially if I'm on a certain part of my
Yeah.
cycle, I will think about that damn comment for days, and I will like type
Yeah.
a response and be like, no. Type a response and be like, no. And then it's just like, all right, I'm going to just do it because I'm so done. Like I'm done,
Yeah.
but it's just, there's so much competition and it's like, God, we're all in this together. Like, can't we just admit that this shit is hard? Like, what is wrong with that? That doesn't
Yeah.
make you less of a mom. It makes you a better one to admit that you're a human. Like, I just don't get it,
Yeah.
but I don't think I ever will.
Yeah. For
It's
me,
hard.
I feel like it comes from a place of like moms just feeling pressure to do it all and constantly
Yeah.
feeling judged. Like you were going back, like there's not this argument with dads about like what job is harder, or I know it's not as common for dads to be stay-at-home dads, but like you literally never hear about dads just like coming at each other over things like
Right.
that. But I think that's because the pressures are different for both people. So I think those
100%.
people that are like coming out in the comments, it's a place of insecurity first of all, and like they need to do their own internal work to see
Yeah.
like, why am I triggered by this? And then
Right.
it's also coming from a place of like feeling maybe just like unfulfilled in your life or judged, or
Yeah.
not good enough. There's something there that's causing that, because if you
Right.
are a fulfilled person and you don't have those insecurities, I don't feel like you're going to come at someone for like a choice that they made, or a lack of choice. A lot of people don't have a
Right.
choice in whatever they decide to do. So,
Yeah. It's true. And
yeah.
it's just like the gender roles unfortunately are still so like back in the day. And a lot of my
Hmm.
comments are actually like that, where they're like, well, when I had my 7 children, and I'm like, I think you might have blocked it out, Karen. Like, I think that you forgot how hard it was, you know? Like, I just like don't
Yeah.
understand like what I don't know. And I don't know how people have this much time on their hands to battle like
Yeah.
this in the comments. Like, what do you how? Can you tell me how you like have so much time? Like, I don't even have time to do the laundry. And you're sitting here just
I
typing these
know.
like paragraphs. I just don't get it. I don't know.
It's gotta
It's
be
it's
like
hard.
some random person. Yeah, it's gotta be like someone just like that's living in their mom's basement, or, also like the older generation, like not that there's like anything wrong with that. Like it is all situational,
No.
because like my mom is in her late 60s, and she was a stay-at-home mom of 6 kids, and like had a very traditional, she raised us very traditionally, and she's not like that at all. Like
Yeah.
but yeah, it's like, why are you even
It
on
all
Instagram?
I
Like,
know. I don't
just
know.
get off, go away.
It all simmers down to that personality trait, because some people it's just ingrained in them to just be combative, and just like ever it's just that's what they do. They sign on Instagram for the sole purpose of creating an argument, and you can see it, just in some of your even some of I was scrolling some of yours and I was like, "Oh my god. Like what is happening in this comment section is a dumpster fire."
I
Like it's
usually just
insane.
ignore them. I know.
It's
Well,
so
and I do
hard,
the
isn't
same thing
it?
that you do. Yeah, I do the same thing you do. And honestly, it's like 99% of the comments are positive,
Yeah.
encouraging. And it's just like that
Yeah.
1%. But I'll usually do the same thing. I'll be like triggered by their comment, and I'll like write something, type
Yeah.
something out, and then I'll be like, no, I need to worry about like the way I respond, because other people are
Right.
going to read that. And so,
Right.
and that's just more of my personality. So sometimes I have to cool off for a minute, but other
Yeah.
times you're just kind of in a feisty mood, and you're like, no, I
Yeah.
need to respond to this and stick up for myself, or stick up for
Right.
whatever I believe is right.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I do the same thing that you do. It's just, it's crazy out there.
Yeah. If it's day one of my period, you bet your ass I'm writing back. But if it's the week before, I'm crying. I'm crying about your comment. I'm
Okay.
crying. I'm crying I'm crying in the closet. Okay. But if it's the first day of my
Yeah.
period, you are getting yourself a nasty response. But it's hard because you also have to be so conscious of how you're presenting yourself now too, right? Because everything's on the internet, and like it's
Yeah.
hard to stick, and like you want to stick up for every single thing that you believe in, but you also have to pick and choose your battles, because your mental health has to take precedence sometime, and that's what it
Totally.
comes down to with a lot of the things that are going on right now in the world. Obviously I want to be vocal about it, being a strong like woman and things, but I have to pick and choose my battles, because like when they start threatening like your family, and I don't know if you've gotten that
Yeah.
before, but it
Yeah.
becomes like,
Hmm.
wait a second, like, okay, I cannot be putting my kids in danger. And this is some faceless person on the internet, and I have no idea what their mental health status is like, and so like you have to
Right.
pick and choose. And I know certain accounts just dedicate their entire feed to those things, and that's great for them. Like go for it. But what I get attacked a lot of the time for not speaking up about certain things, and I don't know if you do too, but it's
Yeah.
like hard
Hmm.
because obviously I'm a mom page and I want to stick up for all the things that are right for moms, but I also have to put my mental health first at some point, because I then have to go take care of my kids, right? I can't be sitting in my
Right.
bed and crying about people's comments and all this stuff. And like it's bullying, it's
Yeah.
cyberbullying. And I'm worried about that for
Yeah.
our kids, because we didn't grow up with this much social media. We had some at the tail end of it, like come college or high school or whatnot, but they're in the
Yeah.
nitty gritty of it from the day that they enter school. It's insane.
I know. Yeah, I think about that all the time. I mean, I used MySpace like in, when I was
Same.
like, I don't know, 14, 15, but it was like you had to get on your desktop computer. You
Right.
didn't
It
have
wasn't
it on this
full, like
device. Yes, that you have access to 24/7. So there were
24/7.
more boundaries back then. And now there's like
Yeah.
zero boundaries. So I worry about that all the time. And I'm just like, I hope
Yeah.
like there's some changes that happen before my kids are old enough to really get on social media and like be exposed to that. It's, more to
I
come
f
10 years down the
right. I
road or
feel
5
like
years down, maybe only
yeah.
5, but
I don't even know if it's that
yeah.
long, to be honest with you, because it's just like I guess that we're gonna have to be the change for them, because I don't think it'll become more regulated in that sense. But we're gonna have to be the ones to be like, you're not allowed to have an Instagram or
Yeah.
so I don't know. There's so much pressure on moms too, and feeling that mom guilt. Like every day I wake up and I'm like, okay, or I go to sleep at night thinking, what did I do wrong today that's going to send them to therapy in 15, 20 years, because it's so
Yeah.
much pressure to raise. You want to raise a good human, but you don't know how much of what you're doing is wrong or is like
Yeah.
hurting them versus helping them. So it's just like the
Yeah.
pressures are there. I'm grateful for the gentle
Yeah.
parenting accounts and the accounts that like help you manage, like, all right, well, this is how you handle this, but it's like I can't, like, that's a full-time career too, or to just try to teach yourself how to regulate your own emotions. That takes
Yeah.
time. It's hard.
Yeah. I
All of
just
it's
did an
hard.
interview with Erin. Yeah, I just did an interview with Erin. It's a conscious mom. I think you know her.
Yeah, I was just texting
But
her right
yeah, we
now.
were talking. Oh, you were?
Yeah, I
I
love
love her
her.
so much. But I was like re-listening to the episode because it came out today, and I get so much out of her every time I see her content. But it's
Yes,
hard. It is
it
hard
is.
work to recognize your own internal things. And like when she
Yes.
said, like conscious parenting is like like you are like the parent like that you are. She said it better than that. But like this is like
She
who
says
you are.
everything
Like you're
better than
trying to like be
everybody.
a better. I know. I'm like, wait, just rewind that. Just go listen to the episode. You guys will see what I'm talking
I,
about. But like
I'm gonna go
but
listen
it's hard
to.
work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is a
but it's
job.
hard
It's
work.
a job. I love her. She
Yeah,
like every time I talk to her, I feel so fulfilled and just like so much better about myself. Like she's somebody who can truly just make a really crappy situation into a logical one and then make you like dissect it into a way that's like, oh, okay, like, all right.
yeah,
That was very simple and thank you for that. She's awesome. She's local to me, so we've gone to dinner and stuff and she's just the most amazing human. Like she truly just
yeah,
embodies like all goodness. She's perfect. I love her.
yeah. I need to move to
But
Florida so I can like be in your
yeah,
guys'
think
like
about it.
mom group.
There's no
Let me
time
just
to
like
like
text
ever
my ex-husband and be like, I'm moving to Florida with the kids.
just like
See you later.
just come down. Let's do just like a girls trip. We'll just like hang out, like
I know.
regroup, and then let's just do that. Let's start with that. You don't
I
have
would
to
love
pick up all your
that.
stuff yet.
Yeah. Okay. Yet.
But we'll start
Okay, I was
small.
going to ask you. Yeah, I know. I would love that so much. Okay, so going back to social media though, I want to ask you this.
Mhm.
How do you not water down your own content with the negative comments that you get? Because sometimes I feel I catch myself doing that now that I've been in the space for 3 years, where it's like you do get those negative comments and they do sometimes get to me. And I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be posting this, or maybe I should like tone it down a little bit.
Yeah.
But I know that's not always being like authentic to myself. And you're one of those creators that just like you said, balls to the wall, and you have never stopped doing that in my eyes. So I'm curious, like, how do you not water yourself down?
So I feel like actually, to be honest, like since the new year, I have a little bit, but not because of what people have been saying as much as it has been just my own mental health and trying to like because we've had a lot of changes in the past couple of months, weeks, and all of that. So I try very hard not to water it down because of what other people say. It's more just when I'm trying to regroup myself and be like, okay, like I need to stop putting so much pressure on myself to create content and get content out continuously and like or like I want to reach out to companies and like start to make this something where I could financially possibly make this a career, but
Yeah.
with there's certain things that have in the past made me question if I need to water it down, but I haven't. And it does get a better response because I get a lot more messages from people saying thank you for being this blunt about things because I thought it was me. Like I thought it was just me. And I have to
Right.
remember that there's so many more people that are appreciative and those are the ones that I need to stick with. And I'll screenshot those and I put those in like an album on my phone. And on the days where I'm like questioning whether
Mm,
or not I should be posting like the balls to the wall content because of one comment that didn't like me, I go and read those.
yeah.
And that's how I'm like, okay, like
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do it. And then I
Just
just
keep
post it
going.
and then I don't look at
Yeah.
it. And I just like don't even look,
And then just
you
like
know?
delete the app and just like
Yeah,
go on silent for
just
like
go,
3 days.
yeah, exactly. And then just hope for
Yeah.
the best.
Yeah. Do you
But
take any
it's
breaks
hard.
from social media?
Yeah, a lot. I actually
Yeah.
have just been. I did this weekend. I like go on, post something, or I'll schedule content to be posted, and I'll just like take a break because, especially when there's so much going on in the world, like I'm a huge
Yeah.
empath, and it really, really just gets to me when I see all this stuff, and when my feed kind of recalibrates into just showing me only those negative things, I have to step away from it because it literally
Yeah.
makes me feel like crap. So I do stop
Yeah.
I give myself breaks. I definitely do. I try hard. Or I'll go to like
Yeah.
specific accounts and just look at their stuff because I know that they're going to bring me joy.
Right. Yeah, I need to do that more. And yeah, I'm the same way. And like when you were talking about not speaking about certain topics publicly, because we're like a mom page, like I have definitely gotten messages from people like you need to use your platform like to speak about these
Right.
different issues. And it's like I wish that I could, but like you said, like the threats, like I've gotten threats to my family
Mhm.
before for even
Yeah.
just reposting someone's thing.
Right. Yes.
And like it wasn't even like it wasn't in my eyes not even controversial.
Right.
But I'm like I cannot even comment on these things anymore.
Yeah.
Like I have to worry about my family. Like I have my own
Right.
personal beliefs, but like this isn't the space for it. And I
Yeah.
can have those conversations offline and DMs or whatever if I want to,
Right.
but I'm not gonna open myself up, to criticism or threats.
Right.
Even though I want to be able to do that, but
Trust
it's
me,
just like
I do
it's not that
too.
simple. Yeah, it's not
Right.
that simple.
And
Someone
like
could find out where I live and yeah.
exactly. And that's the thing too is like I don't and I some accounts that have said that to me, I'm just like I don't know how you're feeling comfortable for it knowing like because you're a mom too and like you have to so like everybody has their own boundaries and that has to be mine. Like don't get me wrong, I spoke out about these things in the beginning, but like there is no black and white when it comes to certain things that are worldwide, right? And obviously just when it comes down to it, women, children, like innocent lives should always be like the top priority. So like
Yes.
when people
Yeah.
are trying to justify certain things versus other things, it's like these are still kids at the end of the day. You're trying to justify why one kid could be killed versus the other. Like that's like a big topic right now, and I obviously feel like no child should ever be a victim of any kind of harm, but it's just you can't even just say that because it'll be dissected into a different way and it'll be like, well,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like I don't have the mental capacity nor can I articulate myself in a way that comes across correctly most of the time because I'm not
Right.
like
Same.
I'm not political and I'm medical, right? So I like don't have it in me. Like I don't have like the lawyer, I don't have the politics, I don't have like the geography or the history. Those were never my strong like classes, and I'm not going to pretend like I know what I'm talking about, right? I need to further educate
Right.
myself on those matters, and I feel like that's also very hard too because like what's real, what's not, so it's just like everything on the internet you have to take it with a grain of salt and then go do your own research, and I don't feel
Yeah.
comfortable doing that because I don't know well enough about it. So and I should have that right. Like it's my page. It's if you're coming here for political views, you're in the wrong spot. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. Seriously.
like I'm going to direct
Yeah.
you elsewhere. You know what I mean? Like there's no I know where my limits are and those are them. So that's
Yeah.
it. I'd be happy to
Yeah.
have like a guest speaker on who's well versed in it, but I'm not going to take on that form because I know my limits, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
Yeah.
you feel
Yeah.
similar. Like,
I feel exactly the same way as you. And so, yeah, it's definitely like when you're getting those messages, it's tough.
yeah,
Okay. So I want to talk about, you have a lot on your plate. So you have your
yeah.
2 boys and they're 5 and
Five and
3,
turning 3 in a week. Yeah,
turning 3.
my
Okay. So
youngest turning 3 in a week. Yeah, yeah.
they're younger than I thought for some reason. So, okay. So 5 and 3, and you work full time in the medical field. You,
Well, I work per diem for 2 different jobs, so it ends up being like a lot more than just part
yeah. So what
time.
does that
Yeah.
mean per diem?
So I go in like as they need me. So I have an orthopedic job where I'm twice a week for now, sometimes three, depending. And then I have another job in family medicine as well as urgent care. So I cover for all the providers. So if they're sick, like some
Mm,
weeks I can work 3 days, some weeks I can work none. It just depends on all that. But like normally I'm working 4 days a week with
yeah.
the shop
Okay. So that,
being
yeah,
the
I
third.
mean, that's a
Yeah.
lot. That's
Yeah.
balancing like two different schedules, even just with like your work, and then you have your kids, which are probably on two different schedules because they're different
Yeah.
ages. And then you're I would consider you a full-time content creator. You post, very
I try.
frequently. You have a big account. Yeah. And then you have your small business as well.
Yeah.
Your t-shirt business. I know that you sell other merch as well. So, I mean, how do you do all of those things? And
I don't know.
it's a lot.
It's a lot. I have to like because I do it all myself. Like I literally
I know
make the
you do.
shirts. Yeah, I
Yes,
make the
I
shirts, I package
know.
the shirts, I ship out the shirts. So I've like had to change the way that I do all that and just like kind of do like drops now with like a limited number because I was keeping it like open all the time and like I still have it open right now and I need to remember to take that all off right now after we get off of this because I'm getting orders in and so I try to dedicate one full day a week to that plus the content creation because on the other days when I'm working in medicine I can't when I come home I want to be done with all that, right? I want to come home and give
Yeah,
attention to my
100%.
kids, and on the
Yeah.
weekends I want to be with them because that's our family time. So it's really hard, but I love to do it all, and I'm so ADHD that I cannot just pick one thing. Like that's how I feel fulfilled. If I'm not doing it all I feel like I'm doing nothing, and that's a big character flaw of mine because I'm run down all the time because of it, and I'm aware of it. And I know it needs to change, but I have not taken the correct measures to do so, if that makes sense. I do have a
Yeah.
social media manager now that helps me with my shop, which is a blessing. Like I owe a
Mm.
lot of my sanity from this month to Amanda, who helps me with my content for the shop. She strictly does the shop
Oh,
content.
awesome. Yeah.
So and she helps ground me too, where I'm like, oh my God, I love this design I just thought of. Like, and she's like, no, like write it down and we'll figure it out at a different time. Whereas like last year, I would have been like, let me just add this to the shop. And then it would be, like
Yeah.
just too many things, too many hats. But I do need to figure it out because I don't know about you, but finding brands to work with is extremely hard too. And then not being somebody who's ever been like in the business field, like I'm not, I'm just in medicine. I don't know how to negotiate. I don't know, like I get
Yeah.
imposter syndrome all the time and I'm a people pleaser. So I'm like, oh, maybe I can just do it this one time for like this amount of money. And then agree to that. And then I'm doing it. And I'm like, I don't want to do this, even though I love the product. It's too much work, because it is work. Like, you don't
Hmm.
realize how much work it all is until you're in it. It's the same thing again. Like, I didn't know content creation was like this until I'm doing
Yeah.
it, especially when you're working with a really nice brand and you want to do the best for them. I don't know. How do
Right.
you manage all that yourself or you have people helping you?
No, no,
Oh,
not anymore. Yeah, and also, I feel like we're the exact same person because I'm like that too. It's like if I'm not
yeah.
like stressed to the max,
Yeah.
like I'm not doing enough. Like I have to do
Right.
another thing, which is like why I started this podcast. It was like I'm going to start a podcast, and then like two
Yeah.
weeks later, like I'm starting it, and it's been amazing. Like I love doing it. But that's 100% my personality too. It's just
Yeah.
like balls to the wall.
Yep. That's
And so
literally
I feel
me.
like
Like
we're
I
the same
literally
person.
have
Yeah.
had this forever and I wanted to do
I
the
know
same.
you need
It's
to do it. Yes.
but I can't. When, Caitlin, when?
I
You
know. I
know?
get it. I totally get
It's
it.
just
Yeah.
but like that, like when you feel like when you're sitting at home, like because you have now part-time, how often do you have your kids? I always want to ask you that, and I don't know if it's an okay question. Like, how did
Of
that
course
like for
it is. Yeah.
you, like how did that change? Like, how did that affect you? Like having your kids
Well, so
all the
I
time to
yeah.
this.
Yeah, so I have my kids, we do a 9-5 schedule. So I have them 9 straight days and then he takes them for 5. And I get questions on this all the time. And the reason that we decided to do it that way, we were just able to agree based on like our work schedule. So I do have a more
Okay.
flexible job. I work from home. He works downtown Salt Lake, so that's like 30-minute, 40-minute, 45-minute drive for him like there and back like every single day. So it's and my daughter just goes to school down the street. So like we
Oh,
just worked
okay.
it out where we just talked and we were like, realistically, like, what is the easiest for both of us? And then I was like, selfishly, like, yeah, I want them more than fifty
Right.
fifty. So, like, I'll do that. And it may come to
Yeah.
an end. There may come a time when they're older and those types of things, like where we do a 50-50 split. But for right now, that's what we're doing. And yeah, but it's hard. Like on day like 6, 7 of like solo parenting, and like
Yeah.
you still have your job, you still have your content. Like
Yeah.
I'm starting a business, I'm doing this podcast. It's like I am just spent. I'm just like,
I
I'm ready
know.
for them to go. And like, that sounds horrible. Like, I love being with my kids, but it's also like what you were saying, like, when you're struggling being a stay at home mom and needed a purpose, it's like sometimes distance makes the heart grow fonder. And like, you
100%.
do need a break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes
You
you more
need
patient
breaks.
with them. It makes you more patient with them.
Yes.
Like I know that I know when I'm reaching my boiling point when they're doing things that normally wouldn't bother me, but it's starting to bother me, right? And that's when I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, I need to regroup before I
Yeah.
like completely boil over. And that's how that must feel for you when you have like solo parenting is no joke. It is no joke.
Yeah.
It is like you
Yeah.
are constantly on, especially when they're younger and like not very independent in the sense of like most things like getting dressed,
Yeah.
needing a snack. And it's just like, okay, like I just sat down and I know that your body felt me sit down because now you're coming to me with something else,
Yeah.
or I just asked you 17 times if you want a snack and you said no, but I just sat down and now you want a snack. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
why are they
I
like
know.
that? But like, and
Yeah.
that's the hard part where you're just like, it's like somebody's pulling at you all the time. And then your brain doesn't stop because I know you're like me where you're like, okay, still have to do this, and this. So you're like
Hmm.
mentally beating yourself up about your entire list of things to do. So you're like just exhausted by the time you hit the bed. You're just like, what just happened today?
I
Did I
know.
even did
A
I
lot of the time,
accomplish anything?
I know a lot of the time I can't even watch a TV show after, like, when I hit the
No.
bed. It's like usually like I love that like hour to just like watch, some mindless show that like
Yeah.
is just like a guilty pleasure, right? And it's like I can't even bring myself to do that. I literally have to just go to sleep. Like that's how I
Yeah.
feel at like day 6 and 7. And for anyone listening to this that's like a single parent or like, contemplating that, it gets like the first little
Yeah.
while of solo parenting, like you get into some type of routine.
Yeah.
I just think
And so
because
do your
mine is like a very
kids.
long stretch of time. Yes. And also my kids are a little bit older now. So my oldest is 6 and a half, and then my youngest is 3. She's going to be 4 in July. So they're a little bit more independent. They're potty trained. They can get like
Yeah.
certain snacks for themselves. Like they can dress themselves. There's still some things I have to do for my 3-year-old, but it's easier in that sense now, or getting
Yeah.
easier. But yeah, it's like you do need breaks. So basically, when they're with Cody, my ex-husband, that is like my time. Like the first like day or two is like when I'm just like in recovery mode, self-care
Yeah.
mode. I try to go to the gym, get
Yeah.
lots of sleep, and then I try to just like get all of my shit done, for the podcast content. I don't like batching content, but I just have to, like, in
Yeah.
most situations, because I can't do it, like you said, when I'm working all day and then I have my
Right.
kids at night, and I'm trying not to just like be on my phone all the time with my kids. It's something
Yeah.
I'm trying to be better at now. So yeah, it's tough. And
Yeah.
going back, I know that you asked about like management. I have a management company that does all of my brand
That's nice.
partnerships and like manages my email inbox. Like I did that up until almost a year ago, and
Yeah.
it was just hard.
I
It's worth it
I
to
don't
spend
do
the
it.
money, in
Like,
my opinion.
yeah. I think
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look into it because like like it would be nice to get rid of one job, right? to just like one
Yeah.
job be gone,
Yeah.
So it's just like okay, but I have really bad control issues. That's why I do everything myself too. So it's like I'm
Yeah.
learning how to like
Same
to
person.
not to give to give up some control, especially with like Amanda, who's like now she like knows me now, so she like knows what I'll like and what I won't like and like this stuff. So like I never gave it the chance, and now that I have, I'm like, oh, okay, this isn't that bad. It's like when you give up the diaper changes, right? In the beginning, we were like, no, you don't really know how to do this the way that I do it, so I'm just gonna keep
Yeah.
doing it until you can't do it anymore because you're so over it, and you're like, okay, it doesn't matter if the diaper isn't as tight, like like you have to give up something
Yeah.
here and there to
Hmm.
otherwise you just go insane. So that's just where
Yeah.
I'm at. I'm like almost there. So I need to start looking for the management company because I feel like you're doing
Yeah.
so
You need
great.
that.
Like you're really like you're
Oh,
doing amazing. And I mean,
no,
your content
thanks.
doesn't ever feel forced or anything. So I mean,
Oh,
it might
thanks,
not feel
girl.
like it sometimes, but you're doing
Yeah.
great. I love watching your content. I really do.
Yeah. I know it's so crazy because like people will say to me, like, you seem to have it all together. And like, and I'm just like, if you knew what it looked like behind the
Right.
scenes, like I am a freaking mess. I'm like so anxious. Like I have too
Yeah.
much on my plate. I know that.
Yeah.
But I can't really give anything up right now, right? So it's just like this is just like where I'm at. But and then I
I
try to
feel
be like
that.
transparent. I want to be transparent with that on social media, but then like that those thoughts in my mind is like, oh, are people going to think I'm like being negative or I'm
Right.
ungrateful because I do have a lot of privileges that a lot of people don't
Other
have.
people
So then I
don't.
get
I
in my
know.
head and I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
want to post too many like negative like
Right.
content pieces, but then I also don't want people to like have this false impression of me that
Right.
like my whole life is together because it's a fucking mess.
Right. I try really hard with
Yeah.
that too because a lot like in the beginning I would only post like things that would annoy me or piss me off, right? So my
Yeah.
feed was
Same.
was very negative for a long time, and like my friends actually pointed it out to me. They're like, "Do you even like being a mom?" And I was like, "Damn." I was like I was like that's a little rough there, but I was like I guess I never thought
Was
about
it
it. It's
someone who doesn't have kids though that said that?
no, no, but they have a very
Okay.
different they have a very different setup. And so I was
Mm,
just like, I don't feel that way. It's just easier to talk about the things that I struggle with than the things that were good today, right? Like I'd be more likely to text
mhm.
my friend to be like, you'll never guess what happened today. Blah, blah, blah. Like, and it's something that
Yeah.
was like stressful for me because that's how I vent, right? I release my that's like my thing. Versus like, oh my God, the boys were so sweet. Like I do that, but just not as often as I do.
Yeah.
CJ just had a blowout, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Like I was just in the middle of the grocery store and he threw himself on the floor. Those are the things that people are like, can relate to in more sense. But I have tried really hard to become more balanced in that, only because I don't ever want my kids to go back on my social media account and be like, what the fuck? I
Yeah.
don't think I look
I feel
miserable. I'm
that.
not miserable. I'm just tired and like overwhelmed, you know? So
Mhm.
it's definitely a balancing act. And that goes back to watering down your content. Like I'm not going to change what I want to post in the moment. Like I'm a big person that posts about my day like after it's happened, not like 3 days later after I've contemplated it. Like I'm not mature enough for that, you know. I just post what I want when I want. I don't like sit there. My if I
Yeah.
had like a management company, they'd probably be like, you need to stop doing that. But I don't. Like I post how
No,
I
you gotta be
feel.
you.
Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Well,
everybody's different.
yeah, well, and it's so funny because if I feel like if you're not a content creator, you don't really get this, but like you almost have to choose like one or two like really niche like topics to talk about.
Mhm. You
Otherwise, you're
do.
not going to grow. You're not going to
Yeah.
grow. So like if you're like, you know, you just can't post everything because people go to
No.
your page for a specific reason,
Right.
you know, and if you're just posting about everything, like there are some accounts that are successful, but most are not. So
And it's
it's not
true.
that we're
It
like
is.
being negative or that we hate
No.
being parents because we don't. And also, I think your boys and I like my girls too, like when they become parents, they'll be appreciative of it
Oh yeah.
because I
Because
didn't get
I
that from
wasn't
my
no.
mom. Yeah.
No. I don't and that's the thing too. I think that that again it goes back to that personality thing where people are like so offended by everything depending on their own issues, right? So it's just it's we just cannot stop being ourselves because other people don't like it. Not everybody's going to like
Right.
us, and I don't want everybody to like me. Like that's not the point. I just want
Yeah.
to hopefully resonate and help more people than like hurting them, you know. I'm obviously not hurting anybody by posting my content. I might be annoying them, but keep scrolling then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Just
it
unfollow.
shouldn't
Get out
just
of here.
it shouldn't stop your entire day because like of something I said you don't agree with. You know what I mean? Like that's a you problem. That's
Yeah.
not a me problem. So it's just that you
Yeah.
have to always remind yourself of that because and I do actually post a lot of different variety of things, but because like my husband cooks
Yeah.
a lot, like I would love to incorporate his cooking into my
I
Instagram, but
know. Yeah.
don't necessarily know how to do that, especially with the way that it functions. And unless you are a content creator, you don't realize that how that works. There are some accounts that can
Yeah.
post like a black screen or like or like just like a picture
Yeah.
of their toothbrush
Those
and get
are
a
the
bajillion
massive
likes. Those
influencers
are
though. Yeah.
massive, like literally. They can post literally anything, a cord to their computer, and it will be viral. But that's not how it works for
Yeah.
90% of us, you know? So you have to be very,
Yeah.
unfortunately, you have to choose. So if you want to make it a career at the end of the
Yeah.
day, that is
Exactly.
what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I relate
So
to every single thing that you said, and honestly, like, the content that you're putting out there is helping so many people. I know it's helped me,
I
and,
appreciate that.
don't stop, don't stop, don't water yourself down, and also, I'm, like, speaking to myself too, like, don't water yourself down,
Yeah,
just,
I
like,
was
keep
gonna say,
going
don't.
because
You
yeah,
don't. And now
yeah,
you've
it's
opened up a
tough.
new conversation. You've opened up a new conversation on your account because you were going through a divorce, and like
Yeah,
people, you have to remember, like not everybody, it doesn't necessarily matter. Like I'm not divorced. I've contemplated it obviously after having kids, like, but
yeah,
I still relate to your content. Like just because you got divorced now doesn't mean that I'm not going to follow, you know what I mean? Like that doesn't, it
exactly,
should,
yeah,
you shouldn't have to relate to every single post. That's not the purpose, right? We're showing you that
yeah,
we're human too. And we're not going to keep
yeah,
certain things from you just because it's not what it was. Like lives change, and we're bringing you along for the ride. If you don't want to be here, get off the ride. You don't have to be
yeah,
here,
exactly,
so that it is what it is. You can't water yourself
yeah.
down for other people.
Yeah, I love
You
that.
better
Okay,
not.
oh my
You
gosh.
better not.
I won't. I won't. I'm gonna go and like post something so controversial later. I'm
Go,
just kidding.
yeah, go. Yeah,
Like I
go.
have
Go
no
start an
ideas.
argument.
Yeah.
You'll think of
Oh my
something,
gosh.
I'm
Well,
sure,
thank
by the
you.
time we bring it up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for
You're so
joining us on
welcome.
the podcast today. You are amazing. I feel like I'm gonna like say like that Kris Jenner quote, like where
You're
she's
doing
like,
great.
"You are like a rock star. Like you really are."
I
So
love
keep
you so
going,
much.
Queen.
Thank you so much.